Hi, I'm Mike Haduck, and today we're at Tomasetti Cutstone in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And I happen to be with WAYNE FERREE, who is a carver on the Washington National Cathedral, big deal, and he offered to show us some of his techniques on this piece that he's doing. Helping out with, yeah. So, big deal to me. It's going to be a long series today because I'm trying to do everything in it and show everything. So, thanks, Wayne. Here we go.
All right. We're here to recreate some architectural embellishments that have fallen off a church, a local church, and we need to recreate them. And what we've done is we've cut some blocks out of limestone, and we're going to shape these blocks to match this so they can be replaced on the building. So the first thing we need to do, as I said, we've cut stones that are the right thickness and the right dimension to recreate these. The first thing we have to do is to create a pattern so that we know exactly what we're doing with these stones. Once we create the pattern, we'll create the shape, and once the shape is done, we'll create the design. So let's get started with the profile. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take a pencil, and use a carpenter's pencil, and just run it along here very simply. And that is our pattern. So we're just very simply going to cut this out. Make sure this is square to our paper. So now we have our shape. We'll come over here to our block. Which appears to be a tad bigger. So this will be our pattern. Right here. So we're going to shape this way all the way through and then come back over here and do the same thing. So we'll shape it through here, and shape it through here, and then we'll come back and we'll create our design, which is this very simple thing here. Just every inch or so, there's just going to be a little groove here. It's a very simple design. Now the other one is a little more complicated. This is for the bottom stone. And so we're going to have to do some finagling to get the profile, which is, the profile is this, the thing we just cut on the other piece. That's the profile. And then the design is here. So in order to make the stencil for this design, what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to make a crease in this piece. And I want to make a crease so that I can put it underneath that stone. And then we'll give it a little bit of a shape similar to that. Going to take our pencil and you see we have our line here, which I'm going to make a crease there as well. Then I think we're just going to cut this to make it easier to handle. Because we're going to know what this is from the profile. So what we're after right now is basically just this design. So we'll just take, reveal some more lead on this carpenter's pencil. Okay, and then this should give us what we need to see what this design is. And it's a little broken up, so we'll just kind of dig our pencil in there to get the lines we need. And if you're not sure where they are, just pull the paper back and take a peek. And I haven't been out to the construction site, but I'm just assuming that this pattern repeats over and over again. And so, I mean, at equal increments. So I'm assuming this is the center line, and this part of the design is more or less an arc, and this has more of a sort of a V shape. So I'm assuming that this repeats over here. So assuming that this pattern repeats, and it may require a trip out to the job site to really take a look at it. But I think what we have here is just basic design, and right here is the center line. So if we made this a stencil and then we drew it on our piece after we created the profile and then flipped it, we would have the reverse image the other way, and then we could just go that way until we get the 2 feet of the stone cut. So our next with the pattern is to cut out the design so that we can trace it onto the stone once it's profiled. So this is how we're going to cut the stencil. And what we want to do is we want to leave spaces that connect the design so that, you know, the paper holds together while we're using it as a stencil. And the thing with stencils is they need to be supported. So these are kind of like bridges that go across the design, and we're going to cut between those bridges and relieve this part of the stencil. Now, we need to, since we're just got a pretty crude tracing here, we'll look at the piece and we'll just draw in the missing features. Like this comes to a peak there, so this will be cut like this. And then this piece pops out. And I'm just using a simple X-Acto knife with a number 11 blade. How's that for free advertising? X-Acto. It's good. It's a good knife. It's great for carving soapstone, which is a good beginning for any aspiring stone carver, is to cut soapstone with pen knives. I think these are referred to as pen knives quite often. Yeah, soapstone's very soft, so. But you can see how this develops here. This design is cut, it's broken, so we kind of just have to assume that had a little nib on it like this one. And these things were hand done, so you know it's really quite charming when something's hands done. It's not uniform like a machine. Now, machines exist now in the digital age that will do this work. And in a very real sense, us stone people are competing against machines now. Not really. This is fun and we like it, but machines are taking over. But I don't know if they'll be producing things that are quite as charming as something that's hand done by a human being. But this is one of the things about carving by hand and just by eye, is you get some unique shapes, and they're not all identical, which is really quite nice, I think. But you can see how this is done, so we'll continue with this whole thing, and then when we get onto the stone, it's just a matter of doing this, and as you can see where the bridges were, we just ignore those. Let's just connect the dots on the stone, because we can't cut the bridges on the stencil because we need those to hold the paper together. So that's basically how we get that design, and then we can always refer to this because this stencil is crude, but the placement is right. Okay, so now we have our facial profile that we did with the stencil, but now we need to get our actual profile. And it's hard with this one because it's a broken piece. Ideally, this would be squared off. We could just put our paper against it and draw a line and we'd have our profile. Unfortunately, it's not like this, and we need this design to reference to. So what we're going to do is we've taken just another piece of paper, we put a stone on top of it and crimped it on both sides. And so now we're just going to push it up against here, make sure that it's square. Okay, and that's pretty square. So it's really a simple matter of using our carpenter's pencil again and just making that profile this way. And there we are. So we'll come up with a measurement to this point, and we'll draw this line, and then we'll draw that line, and then we'll have our profile. Now we want to find out where this is and where this is. And so we're going to come back from the bottom of the crease that we made. Remember, we creased this paper and sat the stone on top of it, and that gave us our bottom line. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to come up. It's 5 3/4 to here and 6 5/8 to here. We're going to come back, it looks, yeah, 11/16. So we can find that. Okay, so 5 3/4 is right there. And then we're going to come over, oh, that's right, we're going to draw this line. And then we're going to add 11/16 to get this line. And then we've got 6 5/8 here. And this just goes on, so we're just going to square this off. Here. And here. So that's our profile. And try to stay right on the line, because we're going to check that profile with the negative part of this pattern and see how close we are. We can always adjust it. And as I said, this is hand done, so it does not have to be exactly perfect. In fact, you don't really want it to be perfect, because that takes away some of the charm of it. Okay, now let's see how good we did here. Pretty good. So we're going to go with that. Okay, so now this is the big stone, and this is the one that's going to have the fancy pattern work on it. We've made our profile, and we're going to draw that on, but first I want to explain the difference between an HB pencil or a 2H pencil. They're pretty soft. They don't really hold up to stonework. What I use is a hard graphite pencil. It could be a 6H to a 9H. Works really well. And you can get those at art supply houses, places like that. You want a good hard pencil so that you don't lose your mark. So we're going to draw this on. That way, and on the other side. And draw your line. Okay, so now we're going to take our square and we're going to draw a line here, and we're going to draw a line here. Then we come over the other side and do the same thing. Come in here. Here, and then we'll connect these lines with a longer straight edge. And I think this one's off just a tad. Okay. So then what we'll do is we're basically going to find out what this angle is. And we're going to cut down to where this curve is. And we're going to make a straight line. And then we're basically just going to be making a shape like that. And then later we'll come straight down and get that. Probably our first thing is going to be to come all the way across with this line. And let's measure that. That's about 2 5/16. So I'm going to come up 2 5/16 here and draw a line. And then we'll connect those. Oops, I think I made a mistake there. That's more like 2 inches, I guess. And then we'll repeat this line over here. We just want to come up to where that curve starts, and we're just going to make some straight lines here and cut that out that way, and then we'll make the curve with a couple of different tools. The first thing I'm going to do is cut this line so that I know where I'm at. And we're going to use a 1-inch air hammer that hooks up to our air hose. And it's rather loud, as you can hear. I'm going to take this 3/4 inch carbide chisel and start with this. Now this is your air cock, and that adjusts the amount of air that's coming through here. So for more delicate lines, you want to go slow, and you really want to dig in and get the meat off that stone. You want to pick it up. Now I use a 1/4 inch line, a small, lightweight hose. It's attached to the bigger hose because you get more air volume out. But this, I'm not fighting the hose. I'm just fighting the tool instead of trying to fight the weight of a big hose. So I use a smaller hose. What you want to keep in mind is that when you're using a chisel, it's kind of like chopping a piece of wood with an axe. You have to have a place for the wood and the chips to fall away. There has to be a place for them to go. And so you have to use your chisel accordingly. Now I cut this line first as a safety cut, and this is where I need to be. This is the line that I need. So I cut this line first, because when I'm taking off bigger pieces of stone, I don't want to take the chance of the stone fracturing into what we need to have, which is this straight line. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and I'm going to cut a trench with a smaller chisel. And I'm And this oftentimes is referred to as a point, but it's basically just a carbide chisel, a quarter inch carbide chisel with a 1/2 inch shank. Another thing you want to remember, you don't want to have your tool coming out to an edge, because that's going to just break off at the end. You want to come into the stone, never out of the stone. Now it's not too important to have this part right here just like this, because this profile is going to continue this way. And so what we're going to have is this corner like this. So the design is going to go this way and that way. So you can see this will be like this. This point here will actually be in here somewhere when we're done cutting this profile. So I'm going to make this trench a little bigger. I can't go deeper than this, because this is our point right here that we need to keep this line and this line. Okay, we'll take that all the way across, but what I want to show you how we're going to remove a lot of stone in one big blow. For that, we use what we call a pitching tool and a hammer. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to work it like this. And that saves us some time. Okay, so that's probably pretty much all we're going to get there. We could come in a little bit more, but we want to be careful. So this will give us a starting point to actually make our profile. Well, we're just finishing up on this piece, finishing up the details on this side. This side's done, and we've got about another 45 minutes maybe here, and then we're finished with this piece. And in the second part of this video series, we'll show you how we actually laid this out and cut it with our chisels.